Disclaimer: the following video contains an organized and objectified remix music tier list from the Super Smash Bros. Series. It contains provoking thoughts and concerns from each remix in the games, all coming from this one random guy on the internet. Music is subjective, so not everyone's thoughts and lists might match with myself and others, so please take this into consideration. There will be anger, rage, and a tiny hint of salt, so watch at your own risk. If you do enjoy this video, however, go ahead and give it a like and share it amongst your peers. And why not go ahead and comment on why my tier list is so bad and why my choices were not to your liking. I would love to see what you have to say after watching this video. All things considered, I do really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen in on what I have to say in this video. Now, without further ado, make sure you are in a comfy position with your headphones on. It's time for me to showcase the best of the best remixes that the Super Smash Bros. Series has to offer to you all. Please enjoy the video. Boys, we are finally here. Finally at the top 100 remixes of all time for Smash. Quite the bumpy road, but now it is time to go over the really substantial Smash remixes. Starting off at rank 100 is Cutman Stage from the very first Mega Man game on the NES. If you've been living under a rock, this is the level where Mega Man goes through to defeat Cutman at the end of the stage. This remix is a hard rock musical style with a prominent electric guitar playing most of the track, with a bass guitar and drum set at its side. We also have a synth for background purposes and a very cool string section at the halfway point. Honestly, I didn't know there was a string section when listening to this remix all these years. Really cool to hear them even if they were only featured for a tiny amount. Also at the very end of the remix we have a unique piano solo, and the electric guitar features a key change and a new half-tempo beat. It may sound like this is a pretty simplistic remix, which I gotta admit it is a bit simple. But there is still a lot going on here with this remix, and I was pretty shocked when I heard all of this epicness when listening in with some headphones on while creating this tier list. Seriously made me think and say, yeah, this remix is a definite top 100 remix for me now. And that's how it made its way up here, at number 100. And as you can expect, this remix is perfect for Smash battling. Pretty much all of these remixes are basically great for games of Smash, so I should probably shut up about saying that and let the music speak for itself now. Funny thing is that every single Mega Man remix that was made in Smash 4 are all up here in this top 100. Pretty surprising since I never really had a great fondness for most of the Smash 4 remixes that were produced for that game. But the Mega Man music really just went all out here, and I was happy that Smash 4 got a music W with inputting the Mega Man remixes for that game, even though I despise Smash 4 heavily. Okay, I got a little negative on that last comment. But I still have some awesome remixes to cover, so yeah, let's move on with the next one. Alright all of you Koji Kondo enjoyers, here's what you all been waiting for. This is where I'll be putting his last remix for the Smash series at rank 99. Hope you all can accept this as a suitable rank for the music legend himself. But let's discuss it a bit before moving on. This is King Bowser from Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES. This plays during Mario's encounter with the big man himself, Bowser, as the final boss of the game. The end of the remix also features the World 8 map being Dark World before looping back to the beginning with King Bowser. This remix is a heavy metal music composition with chiptune sound effects added in throughout the remix, which is a solid addition to the newly remixed music, I might add. I stated that I'm not a fan of chiptune sound effects and music in newly made games, and Smash is no exception. I really do fucking hate almost all of these so-called chiptune remixes that I put way back in my first video for this series. But if the music and chiptune sound effects mix together fairly well, then I deem it pretty good in my opinion. Unlike what was found in the Fortress Boss remix that was also made in Ultimate, which it used an overabundance of, and was very loud and annoying that I couldn't hear the great orchestra music that was playing over it. The use of chiptune music in this remix is not all over the place this time around, and blends in together with this composition, and I humbly admire Koji Kondo's great natural music talent at what he does best. The instruments used here are not just the drum set, electric and bass guitars that are used normally for heavy metal musical styles. Kondo also provides an organ and bongos that replicates the background beat from what was heard from the original game. The bongos even get their own little solo in it, which I absolutely enjoy, even if the solo isn't all that intense. And yeah, speaking about that intenseness, I forgot to mention that the remix is pretty soft in comparison to all the other amazing and blood-inducing heavy music that a lot of the other arrangers did for their own Smash remixes that use this type of heavy metal musical style. But this remix has a lot of charm to it, and it got me hyped up during my time with it while playing some Smash. Harkening back over to the airship theme that Matoy Sakuraba made back in Brawl, that I put many spots down on my tier list. I stated that I didn't really enjoy that remix because of its loud and distracting music that made me not like the gameplay of Smash. This remix made me actually enjoy the match, even if it's not as intense, if that makes any sense at all. Some might disagree with my opinions, but I'm really happy that Koji Kondo finally created such a great remix for Smash after his other previous works. And I believe this is a very standout remix, even if it's not that intense in the spectrum of the other remixes still to come. Landing on another Pokemon remix to somewhat kick us off near the top 100 is Battle Gladion from the Generation 7 Pokemon titles, Sun and Moon on the 3DS. And just like the title states, this is played when the player has to face off against Gladion in the game. Another self-explanatory explanation. Hope we have more of these going forward. This remix plays very similarly to the original song, more or less. It's a very bass and synth-heavy focus remix with a prominent electric guitar and a few stringed instruments in some sections of the piece, with an awesome rock and drum set for the background. The tempo is more or less the same, but the original song was more synthesized with the bass being way more heavier. Granted that the Smash remix has that synthesizer and bass guitar as well, but are much less heavier than the original version. The music instead does feel much more profound given that the remix was made on the Switch, and the original was on 3DS hardware that the original music and sound effects had to be compressed. And just to clarify that the Generation 7 Pokemon games and Smash Ultimate had a less than 2-year gap period, so some of these remixes are not going to be that original from those games. Well, for my thoughts about this one, I think that the Smash remix is actually really great here. The updated music with those string instruments, electric guitar, and that drum set really takes it home as it being a good update, as well as an upgrade to the original version and really good to play in Smash matches. I know some of you Pokemon fans might be rolling their eyes at me. I see a lot of comments on this remix on YouTube as a bit of a downgrade and not as good as the original. Hearing back to the original song, I think it's still pretty great and has that certain quirky Pokemon charm to it. Honestly, if the original music track made its way into Ultimate and not as a remix, I would quite enjoy it in Smash matches regardless. But I'm also kinda glad that this song got remixed and it is a banger to me. The new instruments just blend together and complement each other pretty well here, and it's still really intense for a good action-y game like Smash. and I think that is fine in my book. And while I say its praises, I am getting a bit bored of it now since this remix is set as a frequent song on Pokemon Stadium 2 on its My Music tab by default. Tournament goers, since Pokemon Stadium 2 is a legal stage for tournament play, I ask you all to please put the song down a tad in your My Music so we don't have to hear this remix so often and let the other Pokemon music shine. Okay, thanks. Alright, y'all know I had to include that one super wacky, unique, and creative remix into this top 100. And I believe this is to be one of the most creative remixes out there that is fun to listen to by itself, and to fight in a game of Smash with, despite not drumming up a huge intense attitude. And that is really saying a lot here since I was mainly basing my whole tier list on this type of criteria. Yet, here we are. For rank number 97, I have Personal Trainer Cooking from, Shabaru DS Oro, this Japanese title that was never released outside from the West. But I mean, the Europeans received it with this title, which I'm not going to say. It's quite long and I'm a bit lazy. It's just a game, if you want to call it a game, where your personal trainer who speaks in Japanese tells you recipes that you can cook in real life and how to make them. Basically a neat little virtual cookbook. The main song that is playing in this remix is based on the Welcome to Bistro Pierre, which then switches to the title theme. The music style to this remix is a groovy jazz type of influence with a prominent drum set beat and stylized wind and string instruments for the background, in which an xylophone and accordion play the melody for the song. And what I find incredibly charming and why this remix deserves a top 100 spot is in the middle of the piece you can literally hear someone in the background cooking with cooking utensils, with the silly Japanese Navi from the game teaching you how to cook. You got chopping vegetables, frying food in a frying pan, and even using a salt and pepper shaker for some seasoning. Reminds me of my opponents on Elite Smash when they disconnect while I was beating their ass in the middle of the match. Stay salty, nerds. So you can obviously tell that this remix is just brimming with personality. I know I stated that the Mario Paint medley, which I ranked a couple of videos back, as one of the most creative remixes in the whole Smash remix lineup, and I will still stand by that. But I consider Personal Trainer Cooking the runner-up as the most creative behind that medley. Even then, that remix doesn't hold a candle to Personal Trainer Cooking, due to the fact that the music here is just fantastic to listen to every single time without fail. The ingenious use of using cooking sound effects, in tandem with the unique jazzy style that this remix has, really complements the whole cooking up a meal type of thing that it has going for. Seriously, it makes me want to cook up a disgusting custom combo the next time this plays in the background in Smash. The Japanese Navi thing used here might be a bit annoying though. Kinda reminds me of those KK Slider Animal Crossing remixes I already put down on my tier list. Though once you listen to this enough times, you get used to it. And those soundbites come from the original game as well, so a really cool nod back from the source material. I love how it says, "Let's have a brawl" at the start. Even though it is in Japanese, it's just so fucking clever considering that this remix came out in Smash Brawl. It was super unfortunate that the remix didn't come out for the Western release in Brawl, only playing in the Japanese release at the time. But eventually, it made its way into Ultimate, and now everyone can listen to this amazing remix now. If anyone can manage to go into their My Music tabs and actually change their settings for this remix to display in matches. Seriously guys, it's not that hard to do. One other thing is that the arranger, Toshiyuki Sudo, also made the music for the original title and returns to make this remix. Honestly, I'm glad that they came back and did this remix, because if it was anyone else who actually attempted to remix this piece for Smash, I think they would not have replicated to be just as good as how Sudo did here. Fantastic work and huge props to you, man. Alright, almost 4 minutes in with just this remix alone. Sorry for the huge amount of glazing I just made. The charm was super overwhelming, so I had to say my piece. But I promise to keep things in check from now on when we continue down the list. Okay, I just had to squeeze in one more wacky remix to make it to the top 100. But I consider this to not only be a very lighthearted wacky music piece, but also a good fight song to play in Smash. My brain just likes some weird things, okay? Well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself now. This is Stack Up and Gyromite from the NES games, Stack Up and Gyromite. Very clever title here. But these are a medley of songs from said NES games, mostly from Stack Up's title theme with bits and pieces from the Test Mode, Memory Mode, Direct Mode, and Bingo Mode at the end, before looping back to Stack Up's title theme. This is an all-synthesized remix with an epic bass line added in for that intense beat. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. I thought this guy hated all synthesized music, and now he put one all the way up here? What a fucking sellout. Well, you might be right about that, but just something about this stupid remix makes me want to have a good time while playing some Smash. It is insanely stupid and wacky and all over the place, but something about it is just amazing to me that I can't help but put it all the way up here in my top 100. Just puts me in this weird trance that I can't shake away when this gets put into a game. The bounciness of this remix is just overwhelming and makes me want to give it my all. I can't be the only one that thinks about this, right? There has to be some Stack Up and Gyromite remix fans in the comments section, right? Well, I'm just super fond of this remix and I really like it, so that's why it's up here on this tier list. Okay, now actually going on to the more serious remixes. But before I forget, this remix is made by the late Kenichi Okuma, who recently passed away not too long ago from throat cancer. A terrible way to go. He made 2 other remixes that were made in Brawl, and, well, I wasn't really a fan of those 2 other remixes to be put lightly. But this last remix he made is simply amazing, and I will hold it in a special place in my heart. Rest easy, sir, you will be sorely missed, and the compositions that you made throughout your career will be treasured by many fans from around the world. Next up is the Ocarina of Time medley from the hit Nintendo 64 game with the same name, that became a sensational icon in video gaming. Even if I think it is overrated as all hell. Okay, time for me to stop with my bias and get on with my spiel, sorry about that. From the title alone, this is a mashup of a bunch of music pieces from Ocarina of Time. Starting off is Zelda's Lullaby, which plays prominently when young Link confronts young Zelda at the Hyrule Gardens. Then it transitions over to a few excerpts of the Sun Song, Mirada Forest, and Bolero of Fire, 3 songs that Link can learn and play through his ocarina throughout the adventure. It then plays the Song of Storms, where it can be heard at the Windmill Hut, but also can be played through the ocarina as well. And then the Lon Lon Ranch theme, which is another variation to Epona's theme, Link's horse in the game. And then lastly is Saria's Song, which can be heard at the Lost Woods area of the game, and then the remix goes back over to Zelda's Lullaby at the start. The medley would have been the most amount of arranged songs to be featured in a Smash remix, if it wasn't for the Yu Yuki medley taking that title now. So this is indeed the second highest Smash remix to feature many arranged songs from a particular game. Now let's go to the music. This is a very well done orchestrated remix, but that orchestra plays near the middle to the end of the remix where it plays prominently at Epona's theme. What is super unique about this remix, if you couldn't already tell at the intro of this piece, is that an ocarina is being played all throughout the beginning of this medley, the instrument that is literally at the title of the game, and plays all the way up to Epona's theme where the full orchestra comes in. Such a good callback to the actual game where the ocarina is used throughout the game, and it is used here for the majority of this remix. I love it when music pieces do this, and this remix does a fantastic job of letting that ocarina shine. However, this remix would be pretty dull if it was only being played at the beginning portion. Wouldn't you agree? Well, at least Michiru Naruke remedies this issue by having a unique solo guitar playing along with the medley during Zelda's Lullaby, as well as bits and pieces of wind and brass horns coming along throughout during its beginning portions, making the remix much more enjoyable to listen to. And the transitions from each song from one to the next might be some of the best transitioning I've ever heard. Props where props are due. This remix is eluding with charm, and I do think this goes pretty well during a game of Smash. Those ending portions make it super awesome and intense. I love every second from what this remix offers. The only bad thing to say, unfortunately, is that the remix abruptly stops after the Saria song section ends, and then goes back to the very beginning to where Zelda's Lullaby plays. I already stated this before, but I really don't like it when these Smash remixes do this. It's super noticeable when I play a game of Smash where music pieces just stop for a split second, and then continues on straight from the intro. Kinda gets rid of that enjoyment just for a little bit. A big bummer that this remix has a slight pause at its ending, but comparing it to the other music, like let's say that Mario 3D Land remix I had a while back, where that remix stops for what feels like an eternity before the music starts playing again. The Ocarina of Time medley thankfully doesn't take that long to get back into it from ending to intro, so I can appreciate that at least. Coming to another fully orchestrated Smash remix. Yeah, we still have a few more to go over if you can believe it. Honestly, I can't believe it either, but I just have to accept that and say that these top 100 picks for fully orchestrated remixes are just simply some of the best video game music compositions that I've ever heard in my life. This is the Find Me and Find Me 2 medley that were featured throughout the 3DS built-in software, Street Pass, and has a few of its compositions that were put into this remix. Starting us off here are the title themes for the two games in its opening section. Then we hear the song Fight On Heroes from the first Find Me, and then Save the World Heroes from the second Find Me, which are both battle themes from their respective games. As I said before, this is a fully orchestrated composition, so no noteworthy musical gimmicks to really talk about here, which is honestly fine for once in a while. But seriously, the music here is just so goddamn phenomenal. The wind, brass horns, and string instruments come together so beautifully all throughout. But the star of the show, and to me at least, are those banging percussion instruments scattered all throughout. Snare and bass drums, tambourine, cymbals, timpani, and even an xylophone is heard in a few sections of this remix. My god, so masterfully done. You can obviously tell I'm a shill for all percussion instruments. But that trumpet solo at the beginning of the Save the World Heroes section in the middle of the remix absolutely takes the cake for my favorite parts. The battle themes of this remix are all faster from their previous original pieces, and much better done due to them not being compressed on 3DS hardware, so it makes sense that this remix just blows it all out of the water. Sadly, the title themes for both games are only featured on that one beginning section of this remix, and never to be heard again. The ending of Save the World Heroes transitions over to the beginning of Fight On Heroes for looping back over and over while this plays in a game of Smash. It is not a huge detriment, it makes sense given that the beginning pieces were meant to be played as an intro, but it's kinda sad to see them not to be heard again until you play this remix in another game of Smash. Oh well, it makes sense in the grand scheme of things, I would say. Before I move on, I just have to say that I'm super happy this remix was made as a Street Pass Games music representative for Ultimate, because I could not stand the other Save the World Heroes or Dark Lord remixes that were made in Smash 4, would be the nail to that coffin. Street Pass games were pretty fun at the time, and I'm thankful that Legacy would continue with the Smash stage Find Me, as well as the Smash remix that was made in Ultimate. You didn't think I wouldn't put some Yoko Shimomura remixes in my top 100 list, did ya? Come on guys, I'm not that heartless of a monster to be doing that. This time we're actually coming across her magnum opus, Ryu Stage, from the fighting game sensation that kicked off the fighting game genre, Street Fighter II. This plays whenever you fight Ryu in the arcade mode, or when you pick Suzaku Castle in multiplayer battles. Since the stage Suzaku Castle came out when Ryu was a DLC fighter in Smash 4, you obviously had to make a new Smash remix that plays on it originally. Instead of the chiptune music you hear from the original, this remix has a more prominent Japanese-style influence with it, but adds on with a violin, piano, and synth to the Japanese-style instruments, with it being a taiko drum in the background and a shamisen, which I can't believe I'm still trying to pronounce correctly. And if I am saying the instrument's name correctly, then sorry for doing this running gag of a dumb joke. This remix does retain its tempo and musical structure from the original, and yeah, I will dock it a few points from originality, but in turn, whenever this remix plays, it just fires me up for a grand fight on top of an authentic Japanese rooftop. The instruments here are phenomenal and liven up the experience. I'm kinda surprised I'm giving this remix a lot of praise due to my cultural distaste for the Japanese style of Smash remixes I stated in the past. But I gotta be honest with you all, since the violin and piano are in this remix, I really didn't take a second guess on myself if this remix was influenced with Japanese music. I just really thought that this was a fantastic theme and was kinda floored on all of the Japanese instruments being presented with this remix. Actually, I'm kinda glad I didn't think about that when ranking this remix and just based it on an actual sick music track that the GOAT made for us. What is also neat during the halfway point is that the quote-unquote crisis version of the track, where if one player is below a low HP threshold in the original Street Fighter II, this can be heard throughout the remix just by itself while playing in a game of Smash, and then will return to its natural tempo, or when there is 30 seconds left on the timer or a player has their last stock to signify this crisis rendition. I obviously love it when remixes do this dynamic tone, and it was a great thing that Yoko put in for this remix. Really sold on me for putting this remix here on this tier list. More Minecraft remixes to cover. Thankfully, this will be the easiest Minecraft remix to describe on where it originally plays, since I'm not a very big Minecraft fan. This comes from the spin-off game, Minecraft Dungeons, and plays at the final boss of the game being the Arch-Illager. Similar to what was found in the original game, this remix also provides a grand orchestra, But instead of just the orchestra being played in this remix, we have an excellent drum kit, electric guitar, and piano to add on to this already fantastic music piece. Also, the choir, which was already in the original composition, are more prominent here and add a very foreboding type of atmosphere, but makes the music here all that more impactful. Not to mention that the remix is much faster than the original piece, so it is really a sensational Smash remix to be heard. But I won't lie, and promise me that you won't hate me for saying this. Oh, who am I kidding? I already have enough people that want to see me disappear from my various stupid ass opinions of Smash remixes. I was originally not a huge fan of this remix when I first heard it, even calling it my least favorite Minecraft remix to be put into Smash. But I mean, all of the other Minecraft music pieces in Smash I do really enjoy. Just this one I couldn't really consider it to be up there as one of my favorites to listen to. I don't really know why, I just didn't have a good connection with this one. Maybe it was just a little too intense and distracting, which is very true on all accounts. But this is supposed to be a music piece for Smash Ultimate, and you should be hyped up when playing this in the game, and I'm definitely not discrediting it for that. Although this remix was made by Motoi Sakuraba, it makes a whole lot of sense when you think about it since he loves to add that intensity to every Smash remix he makes. So yeah, I'm not too sure why I hated this remix at first, but I actually grew to love it while doing this project, so that is why I'll happily put it up here on this spot of the tier list. I know some people are going to be pissed on why it isn't higher, and you have every right to. I think most people should put this up here as one of the best Smash remixes in the franchise. I'll just have to accept that. And speaking about Motoi Sakuraba, dude is seriously all over the place in this top 100. So just a fair warning. He does make some pretty sick remixes after all, despite my presumed overhating and bitching. The spectacular Shogo Sakai returns with another remix. He actually has a few more remixes in the top 100, all from Melee in fact, but we will get to those in due time. For now we are going to be talking about Brinstar from the NES game, Metroid. While this is based on the Brinstar area of the game, this remix actually features two other songs as well. The title screen plays at the end of the remix, while the music clip when Samus starts a game is played to bridge both the Brinstar area music to the title screen at the middle of this remix. I get why the title is called Brinstar, but I don't understand why it shouldn't be called the Metroid Medley instead, just like how the Star Fox Medley from Melee is when I mentioned that remix from my previous video. Both of these remixes uses 3 songs from their respective games, and both were from the original games. I thought it would be better to be named the Metroid Medley, but it's whatever. Brinstar is fine too, considering that this remix kinda resembles how the Brinstar remix that was made in 64 has that same sounding structure to it. Anyways, I really love this remix. All of these Melee remixes in the top 100 definitely shaped my childhood, for better or for worse. The amazing electric guitar at the beginning is so euphoric, while the backing of the electronic drums, bass guitar, and the synth do such an amazing job retaining that atmospheric Metroid charm that the fans will definitely appreciate. This remix definitely fits the Metroid series pretty well all things considered, just like with the Brinstar Deaths remix from Melee that I stated in the past, minus the amazing heart-pounding music that the Brinstar remix portrays here. And fun fact about this remix, there are actually 2 variations to this. The one that you are hearing right now is the Melee variation that was put into Melee and Brawl, and then we got an iteration where the runtime was severely decreased when put into Smash 4 and Ultimate, to keep it under a minute-and-a-half runtime. Which is kind of the same deal when I stated back from the Pollyanna I Believe in You remix that was also made in Melee. A pretty big bummer how the Ultimate version didn't use the Melee remix with the longer runtime. But listening back to the Melee remix to this new iteration from Ultimate, I honestly couldn't really tell the difference here. Just more added uniqueness and musical notes from the synth in certain parts of the background. That's basically it. Honestly, a small change to add in that second part of the Melee remix that didn't really need it to begin with. Probably gonna get some heat from that statement. I just don't see it as a big deal, and I don't mind the change of looping back to this first iteration continuously that was made from Smash 4 and Ultimate. I think that's all I have to say about this classic Melee remix. It will be the only one to talk about for this section of the video. I have 5 more Melee remixes to go over in my top 100, so stay tuned for that, Melee elitists.
Who's the girl next door living in the haunted mansion?
You'd better learn my name, cause it's
Ashley. She knows the darkest spells and she brews the meanest potions.
You might be the ingredient I seek.
Don't let yourself be fooled by her innocent demeanor.
You'd better be afraid of the great
Ashley.
Still got some lyrical remixes to go over. Might be a controversial take since some people are not a fan of them to be put into the background for their Smash matches. But these last 2 ones that I will cover are just so amazing to me that I had to put them up for my top 100. And I assume that this lyrical remix of all things will be the most popular one that Smash fans can't seem to hate, which is understandable in all respects. This one is Ashley's song from the Nintendo DS game WarioWare Touched, where it plays whenever the player goes through Ashley's microgame section. Vocals are also present throughout that section of the game, but were very compressed due to the quality of the Nintendo DS. For your information, it's not the best, but still manageable to be decent somewhat. However, the Smash remix did itself justice with an amazing vocal presentation on both the English and Japanese iterations of this song. Going off the list here, we have Emily McTonish, who is the singer who plays Ashley in English, and the backup singers are Terry Lauber and James Cowan, the same guys who sung the Mike Song remix a couple of ranks back, if you can remember. The Japanese iteration is a little more interesting. The singer who plays Ashley is none other than the remix arranger herself, Tomoko Sasaki. I was pretty shocked when I found this out, but when looking back at her track record for video game composition, she made and voiced a lot of music from various Sega games in the past. So it is no surprise on why she sung the Ashley song, and I will admit, she does a great job on portraying the devious grade schooler herself. This ain't her first rodeo, folks. The background singers for the Japanese version is the Small Circle of Friends, which are a Japanese multi-genre group in Japan, and they fit well, I would say. Music for this remix plays similarly to the original DS title, a jazzy interpretation that goes super hard in the music department, and is an overall great time when listening to this piece in a game of Smash personally, especially that sexy sax solo near the end of the piece. Damn, why does this go so hard for no reason? I know that some people probably hate me for liking the English versions of lyrical Smash remixes more so than the Japanese versions, but let me tell you that I personally like both iterations for this Smash remix. Tomoko Sasaki does a great job of doing a very cute impersonation of Ashley, while Emily really hits it out of the park with her unusual, bashful voice, and the jazz music here is just so amazingly well done and complement both singers. You honestly can't go wrong with both versions. I don't mind this remix being played in a Smash game from time to time, but it isn't really too impactful to be played in a super serious competition, so that's why I'm sadly putting this remix here on this rank of the tier list. Trust me, I know this is a very popular piece, and I'm with you all on it for being awesome, but the other remixes that I've yet to cover are just so good that they have to pass this one up, unfortunately.
Watch your step or she'll cast a spell on you.
I turn my teacher into a spoon. I'm afraid of my spells, and yes, it's true.
My guess is that this is probably a remix that most of you were not expecting to be put into my top 100 remix tier list. Honestly, I'm just as shocked as you if you thought about that in the beginning. But diving deeper into this project, the overwhelming, minuscule, and subtle hype that this remix provides is just something so awe-inspiring that I had to make this a top 100 pick. This is Battle Dialga and Palkia, and the Spear Pillar themes from the 4th generation Pokemon titles, Diamond and Pearl. This plays when the player is battling the legendary Pokemon of that generation, Dialga and Palkia, from the beginning and ending portions of this remix, and then it briefly plays the peak of Spear Pillar when the player confronts Team Galactic's leader, Cyrus, in the middle of the remix, acting as a bridge of sorts. Comparatively from the original music pieces that were on the DS to the remix, and this is the only negative quality that I will give out just to get the hate out of the way, is that the musical interpretation is not very original. It has the same beats and musical cues and melody from the original game. Just the instrumentation for this remix is definitely a lot more prominent with its piano and percussion, which you can't go wrong with. Even with me saying that negative stuff, I simply just cannot underestimate just the raw power and energy that this remix exudes. The beat that the percussion has just gets me going, and the piano, synth, and string instruments just put me into this trance-like state that makes my head bob and makes me think that I'm ready for anything. And that Spear Pillar middle section, while very simplistic, only uses a bass drum, chime bells, and a small brass horn in the background. And those wind sounds breezing through that particular part makes me think of some epic anime battle that is ready to throw down, and in turn makes the remix that much cooler to me when playing it in a match of Smash. Could just be me having a stupid interpretation, but I kinda like it when my mind thinks of different things when listening to music. Love it when that happens, and this remix just does it so perfectly. Also, this is one of the few 3-minute Smash remixes out there, so a prime example of this not being too dull or boring when listening in a game of Smash, even with all the simplicity behind it. I don't know, does anyone else feel the same way about this remix? I feel like I could be the only one that thinks this is a really well done music piece for high intensity fights. I would like to know what people think down in the comments, but anyways, let's continue on. Still have lots to cover today. Alright, going to another Motoi Sakuraba classic, we have the battle scene and final boss from the Game Boy Advance title, Golden Sun: The Lost Age. You guessed it, this remix plays both the regular battle theme throughout the game, and then the final boss theme when the party fights the final boss, being Doom Dragon. Okay, so first off, before I gush about the music, I just want to say that I fucking hate this title. The two songs featured here are from the sequel to the original Golden Sun, being The Lost Age. The remix title states that these two songs were from the first Golden Sun game, not The Lost Age. So once again, another title typo plagues my existence. I just hate the fact that people might be thinking that this is from the first game, while it is not the case, and then these two themes come from the second game. Why am I so hellbent on stating this dumb fact? But seriously, why is it so fucking hard to not put the correct game title for the title of the remix in the first place? Sorry, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Okay, going back to talking about the good stuff now. The music might play similarly to the original game, being the synth mostly playing the chiptune Game Boy Advance melody during this entire remix, which will cost a few originality points, I'll give it that. But the whole remix just has that super gratifying feeling of being locked into a battle to the death type of scenario, which I love a lot during my gameplay sessions with this remix turned on in Smash. The music here is a lot faster and more intense than its Game Boy Advance counterpart, and also not very compressed. The Smash remix takes advantage of adding the synth and techno-electronic drums that harkens back to the original, while the electric and bass guitar adds that modernized flair that I can't help but love. The bridge between the regular battle theme to the final boss theme transitions super well too, and I just really love that intense feeling of not slowing down and never letting up. Motoi Sakuraba also was the original composer for the Golden Sun games, so making a return to remake a music piece of his makes so much sense on why this is just so goddamn good in my humble opinion. Second Mega Man remix to cover today, this one being arranged by Noriyuki Iwadare himself. We have Airman Stage from the NES game Mega Man 2, which plays when Mega Man goes through the stage where Airman resides, where he has to fight him in order to gain his power. The music for this remix is really upbeat compared to the original track, with a sort of jazzy rock style to it. We got a prominent piano, organ, synth, electric guitars, and a banging drum kit in the background. And almost each instrument listed here plays a super awesome unique solo or section throughout this remix, especially that organ. Man, the organ player just tears on through and goes wild on that thing. Not giving a fuck and loving life. Hell yeah, dude. So you may be thinking, or maybe not, but since this remix is arranged by Iwadare, I just want to state that the other Smash remix he made for the Mega Man franchise was actually Top Man Stage that was made in Ultimate, which I covered and put into rank 103 in my last video. If you listen closely to both the Airman and Top Man Stage remixes that Iwadare made, yeah, you guessed it, they both sound very similar to one another, regarding the instruments at least. In all honesty, while writing the script, I didn't think twice about that outcome because I can believe that the Top Man remix is pretty much better in every way from Airman Stage. The exuberance of that remix is unparalleled compared to Airman if you listen to both back-to-back and side-by-side. This Airman Stage remix doesn't have the best qualities considering the fact that there is little to no tempo change between this remix and the original song, while Top Man Stage antes up on the tempo increase and rides through in style all the way through to the very end. But, you know, from me saying all of this and doing a dumb double take, which I shouldn't be doing all the way because this project is almost done, I'd actually prefer the Airman remix more than Top Man. Even though the Top Man remix has so much charm with its wildness that Airman doesn't even compare to, I would still think that the Airman remix is great on its own, for simplicity's sake. The solos are great here, and it feels like the background instruments really level the playing field by not being too overly dramatic. The Top Man remix made those background instruments very over the top, that it feels like the solo instrument is not being profound, makes it feel like it is drowned out in comparison. Honestly, I might just be hyping up Airman Stage too much. I very much like both of them to be frank, but I might have a bit more bias for the Airman remix, since it was one of the first new Mega Man remixes I listened to for Smash 4, and has a special place in my heart. Maybe people might agree with me, and others may not. Regardless, I'm putting my foot down for Airman Stage being in the top 100 for my tier list, and nothing can sway me otherwise. Alright, I know you all want some blood to see this remix fairly low in my top 100. No pun intended. I can understand the sentiment. But let me start off with the description first. This is Divine Bloodlines from one of the presumed best original Castlevania games, Rondo of Blood. This plays on the first stage of the game where Richter Belmont traverses the burning town while defeating ghouls and monsters along the way to make it to Dracula's castle. The song also makes several appearances throughout the many later Castlevania games, most notably in Symphony of the Night where Alucard fights Richter as a boss fight, while he is under control by the Dark Priest Shaft. So obviously this is a very iconic Castlevania theme. This remix makes a more grandiose orchestra rock approach, similar to what was heard from the Out of Time remix I went over in my last video. And while I'm on that topic, Yasushi Asada, the arranger for this remix, also arranged Out of Time and Brinstar Deaths for Ultimate. So the similarities are uncanny, being that they all heavily use a solo violin in tandem with the electric guitar when playing the melodies throughout all of these remixes. I consider this remix the best use of this type of musical style scenario. Both of these instruments do not feel out of place to me, and go in line with the amazing background instruments of the orchestra very well here. I do really like this arrangement, and in fact, all of Asada's remix arrangements he made for Ultimate. They are all very stunning since I put them all past the halfway point of my tier list. Like I stated before in my last video, I am a bit tired of the violin and electric guitar duo after listening to these remixes so much. Please believe me that they are all great, but I think they lost their luster for me as time went on, and I just feel like the other remixes past this one are just better in my personal biased opinion. But putting all three of these great remixes sorta right next to each other makes me feel like I did a good job on ranking them. All three of these remixes are great in their own right, and words cannot describe how awesome it was to hear the whole Divine Bloodlines remix when Ultimate was released. I don't know what I was feeling or listening to at the time, but I just knew that it truly was a fantastic piece and easily one of the most popular remixes of the Smash Ultimate Remix lineup at the time, and probably still to this day. I know I didn't say really much of anything about this remix, but what else is there to say? You already know it is a banger of a remix, and that's pretty much it. Felt like talking about another unique jazzy remix in this video, and the last of the Persona remixes to go over, so here we are. This is Aria of the Soul from the Persona series of games. This first appeared in Revelations Persona back on the PlayStation 1, when the party traversed inside of the Velvet Room, but the room and the song Aria of the Soul really took its stride when the game Persona 3 came out on the PlayStation 2, and it continued on with every subsequent game since, where it is a place where the main protagonists can fuse and strengthen their personal personas. The original style of music is a very somber and melodramatic tone. It's a very slow piece of music with a leading piano, string section, and female opera singer to make the player be enveloped in this trance-like state to take their time in this mystical dimension. For the original being such a somber song, I really don't hate it, just an FYI. This is perfect for a game such as Persona, where you need to take your time to make sure the player is outfitted with the best team that they can make, not to mention that atmosphere. It envelops the player in this super hyper-dimensional scenery to make it very mysterious, yet cool at the same time. But of course, the original song was really not meant to be played in very intense settings. I mean, the opera singer and that melody of the song get played in one of the sections of Hymn of the Soul, which is used for the final boss battle of Persona 3, and you can also hear that song in Smash Ultimate, but that's besides the point. Well, when I first saw the music that the remixes were being displayed for the pack that Joker and the Persona franchise was in, I was really skeptical if this Aria of the Soul remix was worth playing due to the melancholic nature of the original song. Well, I'm actually super happy to say that Mitsuhiro Kitadani really struck this out of the park for Smash Ultimate Remix standards. The grooviness of this super jazzy take of the Persona 3 version, just of Aria of the Soul, was masterfully done here. The Ultimate Remix uses the same jazzy musical style from most of the Persona 5 game's original soundtrack, It makes a lot of sense since Persona 5 was the game that was featured within Smash Ultimate. Personally, I would have liked Persona 4 to be featured instead, but I'm just being a blatant fanboy at this point with that game. Back on track with the remix, this is exceptionally done through Persona 5 standards. The amazing string section, piano, electric guitar, and those violin solos at the middle point of this remix are incredible. The drum set is also being fire as per usual. And you couldn't forget the amazing opera singer singing the melody of the song, all while performing at an incredible speed that was necessary to make this a very fast-paced and intense song to be played in Smash battles. I couldn't ask for anything more, this was fantastically done. However, I am getting pretty sick and tired of the heavy use of Persona 5's acid jazz music nowadays, so I think this is a pretty forgiving rank to put this amazing remix at. Mind you, I still think that every remix shown today is amazing in their own right to me. Hope I didn't piss too many people off with this pick, and the other ones I stated already today, and the many more to come. Regardless, this is such a great remix from Kitadani. And speaking about this arranger before I move on, he only produced one other arrangement in Smash history. He actually only produced remixes in the DLC phase of Ultimate, and this is his first remix to be featured on my tier list. And let me assure you all that this man produced another amazing remix that I cannot wait to show you in the upcoming videos of this series. Stay tuned. Sorry, Motoi Sakuraba fans. I must be crazy to put this many remixes he made all in this one section alone for this video. But don't worry, he still has many more to come. Hope y'all don't hate me for this take. This time, covering Woodman stage from the NES game Mega Man 2. If you couldn't already figure this out by the title, this is a stage where Mega Man must traverse to take out Woodman in the game. And from every other Mega Man song that I've covered previously, pretty much all of the Mega Man music was primarily used with chiptune music from the olden days. Obviously, Motoi Sakuraba said to hell with this old style of music, and used a very heavy rock orchestra style for this theme. This music is heavily induced with an amazing string orchestra section, with backing electric and bass guitars, as well as a very loud inducing drum kit. I must be very cynical at this point in my tier list making, since I put almost all of the other Motoi Sakuraba Ultimate remixes that he made a bit low on my personal tier list, due to the overuse of this stupid, banging drum kit that drowns out pretty much all of the other instruments that was presented in his pieces. While I do think that this drum set still has that one griping flaw that makes this remix not the best that it can be, but what if I told you all that I think that the drum set actually is an important key factor to making this remix stand out and help the rest of the instruments in this remix piece? Shocking, I know. I really pulled a Uno reverse card and 180 the entire situation on myself for this loud, obnoxious instrument. But let me explain myself. Since this remix is already super fast and really loud to begin with, the drum set here really sells it home on being very loud and intense with the rest of the instruments. So in a way, it is a welcoming change to have. And not to condone the fact that all of the other instruments, especially the string section, are all magnificently well done here. The drum set even replicates the original song by having a unique solo in the intro of the piece that resembles what was heard. Very cool non-back, and also love the percussion solos. Hope they keep coming in future Smash remixes. Sometimes I wish Sakuraba just really toned down the volume from these booming drum kits from his Ultimate remixes. I would have definitely put almost all of his Ultimate remixes very high on my tier list, maybe even putting this Woodman stage remix in a possible top 10 spot. However, that wasn't the case for me. Really sad to see, but I would expect some people to really enjoy his remixes and to be put up pretty high on their own personal tier lists. What more can I say, the dude just really makes some sick video game music. You guys didn't think I had it in me to feature another Castlevania remix so soon on the tier list. Guess you all thought wrong. This is Bloody Tears and Monster Dance from the second Castlevania game in the series, Castlevania II: Simon's Quest on the NES. These two pieces are represented in the game's day and night cycles for the overworld section of the game, where Simon traverses to different towns and dungeons, the daytime theme being Bloody Tears and the nighttime theme being Monster Dance. The intermission theme, where it transitions from daytime to nighttime, is also heard in this remix, which is signified by chime bells. Such a great detail, and possibly one of the best transitions in all of the Smash remixes, personally. The music is an orchestral heavy rock style which the Castlevania series music primarily uses in Ultimate, so it's very commonplace with the series, and I can't complain. This one style of music fits very well with Castlevania standards. The electric guitar plays the majority of the remix's melody, with a backing drum kit in the background. However, there are different instruments being used in both of these sections for this remix. Bloody Tears incorporates a harpsichord and pipe organ in that background, while Monster Dance uses an all-male choir, which I absolutely love and they do a bang-up job as always. Monster Dance is definitely my favorite of the two sections, but I still like the Bloody Tears section as well. The tempo didn't get an increase or decrease change from the original versions, so it's a little bit of a bummer. But you can't deny that this remix is still very upbeat and perfect for some Smash action. Michiru Naruke did an amazing job clashing up these two themes together to make a pretty stellar Smash remix. I think she played it a bit too safe, however, due to no tempo changes, and the music style being similar to a lot of the Castlevania remixes already displayed on my tier list, so I'm putting this here at rank 82. Speaking about Naruke, she arranged 7 remixes in the Smash series, and all of them are in my top 100. I really didn't even notice that until making this script, so I have to say that she might be one of my new favorite video game composers now, since she did incredible work for all of the Smash remixes she produced. So, coming from a remix that I believe would turn some heads to be a possible contender for one of the best Smash remixes of all time, we are now coming to one that is just a what the fuck is this pick for most people. And yeah, I said the exact same thing when I first listened to this when Fighter Pack 4 came out in late 2019. Damn, that was more than 5 years ago at this point. Yeesh. But somehow this remix is just too hyped to not be mentioned as one of the greatest to me personally. This is Theme of Sid, or Theme of SYD? Whatever, I'm just going to call it Theme of Sid. This is from the game Alpha Mission, released in 1985. Actually, one of the oldest games to be featured in Smash. This remix showcases 2 songs from this game, Theme of Sid, which is the namesake of this remix, and Sid Overdrive. They play in 2 of the opening levels of the game. At the start of the remix, a soundbite from when a player puts in a credit to start a game of Alpha Mission plays at the beginning of this remix. Wow, that is actually a super amazing callback. Unlike the chiptune music from way back when, this remix takes a very grand orchestral approach. And my god, when listening to the original piece to this remix, geez, this remix just did the original music justice with the tempo and pacing. I never expected the orchestra to match its fast intensity from the original game, and I'll give major props for the incredible musicians who were a part of the orchestra to create this fantastic piece. It must have been hard work for even remotely recreating the original game music such as this, and they absolutely blew it out of the park and I'm loving every second of it. When listening with headphones on, you can also hear some electronic drums playing the beat in the background, which plays similarly to the original game. I personally believe that this remix has a lot of flair and charm to it, but I'm sad to see that no one really knows that this remix even exists, given that it's from one of SNK's niche titles to be put into the King of Fighters Stadium stage in Smash. Yeah, it may be super niche. Honestly, probably calling this remix the most super out there and niche video games to even remotely be put into Smash. It's unparalleled compared to other titles. I mean, the personal cooking trainer remix is also from a niche video game, but I digress. This is still a super slept on remix. Go ahead and play this in a game of Smash and come back to me in the comments. Tell me dead in the face that this remix doesn't deserve the praise that it honestly should. I bet you can't, because this fucking slaps. You're just too scared to admit it. Moving on now before I go off on another 5-minute tangent. Going down to one of the last few Zelda remixes in Smash, we have a very weird and interesting Zelda remix to go over. In fact, this is probably the strangest pull to be ever be conceived for a quote-unquote Smash remix. This remix is titled Nintendo Switch Presentation 2017 Trailer Background Music, and this piece is played during the last trailer for the newly releasing game at the time, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which prominently showcased the release date at the end. It was pretty hype, you just had to be there. But seriously, the title that was being said at the beginning of my script here, yeah, that's the whole name. Nothing of mention for Breath of the Wild to be found. I think it's actually really funny if people didn't get any context to this song title, and then it pops up in a game of Smash at the start of the match, and you look at it and wonder, what the fuck is even playing? Don't know why I think about that every time it pops up. But what isn't funny though is the music itself. Oh man, this is such a fantastic orchestra piece all the way through. The opening notes of the choir, electric guitar, and the string instruments just blow my mind every time I have the pleasure of listening to it when it first starts out. All the way through, the orchestra is booming, the choir is exotic, and the percussion just doesn't miss. Literally get goosebumps just by listening to it now. The Smash remix also gets rid of the slow and melodramatic parts from the original trailer, so it is upbeat and intense all the way through. Such a great call by Nagamatsu to get rid of the slow parts, since this is made for Smash. Doing so heavily put this remix at a top 100 remix of all time for me. I would love to put this remix much higher though. Actually, I originally was going to put this remix near my top 25 remixes in my drafts. But I really hate to say this, unfortunately this remix feels like it was a copy and paste type of deal. Besides the opening notes at the beginning of this remix, and that sweet electric guitar playing throughout the entire piece with the orchestra, everything that you're hearing right now are all from that trailer with no tempo increase and no different variations from the orchestra that was present in the original. This really saddened me when I found that out, and I had to put this remix a bit lower than intended, because originality should play a huge factor when ranking all of these Smash remixes. I can't just look the other way with this one. But this remix is still fantastic, even if it doesn't mix things up from the original. I still would rather play this remix than pretty much anything else from the Zelda franchise, minus a few other remixes from that franchise that I've yet to cover. So yeah, I'm sorry if people might be a bit butthurt about this rank placement. This remix is still a bop though, and gets me going every time without fail in a game of Smash. If only a lot of the other Zelda remixes would follow up the same way as this remix did. Jeez, it really is super depressing to be a Zelda fan while playing Smash sometimes. Yeah, we are still going over Mega Man remixes today. This will be the last time for today, however. Another thing is that the Mega Man series has the most remixes represented here out of my top 100 placements, so expect a lot of them going forward. I think you all know why the Mega Man music in Smash should be deserving of this accomplishment. But anyways, now we have Gravity Man stage to go over. This plays when Mega Man sets out to defeat Gravity Man in Mega Man 5 on the NES. Here's a musical style that you all must think I hate. And you're correct, in a way. Basically, this remix heavily uses techno synths all throughout with an electronic drum beat to back up the music. While there are a few instances where there are electric and bass guitars playing in the background to help, I've mentioned previously that I am not a big fan of synthesized or full electronic music in games where the synth is the main focus. I much rather have real instruments take the forefront of video game music, and I went over a lot of all synthesized music for Smash remixes already. But this one really stuck out to me. Compared to the original score from the NES, it was a bit slow and had brief pauses to replicate that stage of the game for having a space-like feel and focus. The Smash remix has no pauses at all and has continuous music throughout, which I really like. And the tempo is much faster now, driving home that upbeat factor that Smash Ultimate remixes were going for, to get great music for intense matches. And here's another Uno reverse card on my hot takes already. The music here just stands out on being the few electronic music that I really like to listen to. I don't know why, it's just so good. The melody played by the synth is great and menacing, while the background instruments give it that epic ambience of that space-like feel I mentioned. It reminds me of the Crashman stage remix I went over previously, while having this eerie type of music that just puts me in a trance. Definitely not the best type of style for fast-paced matches of Smash at first glance, but it just really gets you going when actually playing in a match. This is also, sadly, Yumi Takahashi's only remix she has ever produced for the Smash series. I really like this remix that she made, but I'm a bit curious on what other music she could have also made for Smash. Given that her notable works are only from Nintendo first-party games, I would have liked to see what she would have cooked up next. Maybe in the next Smash game. Hopefully. Next up is one of the few Metal Gear remixes that snuck its way up to the top 100. This is Encounter from Metal Gear Solid, first heard on the PlayStation 1. This plays whenever Snake gets spotted by the guards that are patrolling through the base of Shadow Moses. This will play constantly until Snake goes undetected by the guards. Besides certain in-game cutscenes or the boss battles of the game, this song will pretty much be the only music piece that will have this very intense effect playing throughout the game. And I'm glad that this was put into Smash as a remix, cause man, this shit slaps. The original composition was a fully orchestrated piece with a somewhat electronic twist to it, but the Smash remix takes that electronic twist and goes super overboard in the best way possible, by being more prominent with its electronic drums and synth. But the orchestra is still intact with this remix. String and brass horns are present throughout the melody and they are just booming with high intensity. I especially love that there is also an electric guitar riff and bongo drum that goes into the second part of this remix, which adds some uniqueness of this already great piece. However, what brings it to rank 78 is the originality. While yes, the remix does feature amazing stuff, it unfortunately kinda plays out the same from its original composition, such as the same tempo and structure, so that's why I'm putting this here. Might get a lot of hate from that description alone, but like I stated before, I still would like to put originality into some sort of factor when ranking these top 100 remixes. Super sorry if I'm basically repeating myself over and over and over again. Still, this remix is amazing regardless. I would be completely insane if I didn't put this remix as one of the best Smash remixes in existence. Alright, incoming hot take time. Had to squeeze in at least one more hot take for my top 100, right? Well, please trust me that there will be plenty more of them coming in the future. At least I hope some of them aren't, and I'm just being presumptuous about myself and my weird music taste for Smash. But I can definitely say that this is a hot take, that much for sure. I doubt half of you have even heard of this remix to begin with, so let me get on with my explanation. This is the Colosseum series medley from the Fire Emblem franchise, and plays 2 songs across 2 of its games. First, plays a Colosseum theme from Genealogy of the Holy War, one of the Japanese-only Fire Emblem games on the Super NES. And then the second and last Colosseum theme plays from The Binding Blade, from the Japanese-only Fire Emblem game on the Game Boy Advance. I think I'm starting to see a pattern here. The Colosseums are in certain chapters in the various old Fire Emblem games, where a unit can go and compete in the Colosseum for more experience and gold in the game. However, if a unit loses, they are left dead, never to be seen again. So the music in the original games are supposed to be very exciting and intense to listen to. And to that extent, I believe that this remix delivers on this exciting tension in Smash battles. Instead of the chiptunish style of music from the old games, this remix is a very bass and percussion focus, with a slapping bass and various percussion instruments come together to play the sick beat where you just can't help by nodding your head every time you listen to it. At least that's what I do every time when I listen to it anyways. We also got a synth playing in most of the second section of the remix, with amazing string and horn instruments to set the melody and the mood in a way, for an exciting match to play out. Okay, I think I can understand that this is probably going over a lot of heads, I bet. So let me just set the record on why I think that this remix is amazing for Smash, and not a boring piece to play. Just like what I stated during my Spirit Pillar and King Bowser remixes, sometimes the simplicity and softness that some music tracks have can add that amazing tension, even when it isn't super over the top and brash. I feel a certain way with what the Colosseum series medley has in that regard. Sure, it's pretty slow and not that loud, but man, it certainly has a lot of kick when you sit down and take a listen. The music just really builds up and up over time, and it just comes all together nicely. Pretty much 50% of this music track is just that build-up pressure, but it doesn't go overboard at the end. You sometimes don't need to have that in certain remixes, and this is just one of those instances where it really stands out for me. Hopefully, I didn't bore you all with me gushing about how great this remix is. Gotta throw a curveball every once in a while. Pretty much all I like about this is the bass and percussion, because goddamn, they just go fucking hard for no reason at all. Little to do that I'm a Fire Emblem fan. Okay, maybe it is the case that I like this remix so much, is that I am a Fire Emblem fan. I am a bit biased towards this franchise, cause I really do like it after all. Last up for today is a remix that I never thought would be proven very likable to me until I heard it a million times over. Unlike with the Divine Bloodlines and Bloody Tears and Monster Dance remixes that I had earlier in the video, where it kinda got old when listening to those pieces over the years. Well, I used to not give this remix a light of day for the longest time until doing this project, and now I have a very strong liking to it to put it this high up on my tier list. This is Cross Your Heart, which appears in the game Haunted Castle. For those that do not know, this is an arcade game that was made in 1988, and actually the second game in the Castlevania franchise, even before Castlevania II Simon's Quest, that follows the story of Simon Belmont rescuing his newly wedded wife, Selena, from Count Dracula. This theme plays on the very first stage of the game. This Smash remix has a slightly faster tempo with a hard rock adaptation to the original, that includes electric guitar and an organ during the middle section of the remix, and then a choir for its main melody, with string instruments and a drum set setting up in the background. As I mentioned during my drafts when making this remix tier list, I truly didn't find this remix to be very good at all actually, even putting it almost all the way down at the bottom of this tier list. Good thing I had a change of heart, or should I say a cross of heart, cause man, if I put this remix all the way down on my tier list originally, I would have just right then and there ended it all by having the worst opinion of all time. This remix is beautifully done here, with the hard rock attributes, the amazing orchestra in the background, and not to mention that stupendous choir. Remember when I said that I really like the choir in my video game music? Well, I actually had the remix way down on this tier list because of the choir itself, thinking that they were a hindrance to the top-notch music that was playing in this remix. Now I actually believe that the male and female choir really complement the music. Having this energetic but dreaded tone really sells it to me now. I highly suggest everyone to give this remix a chance next time you boot up a game of Smash. This remix is criminally underrated, and I will die on this fucking hill for this remix. You can all thank me later for showing you this remix today, once you sit down and take a listen to this epicness yourselves. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around and watching the video to the very end, if you happen to make it this far. I wasn't expecting this particular video to be very long. Sometimes when I'm making these scripts, my thoughts just go to bizarre spaces, and I just go with the flow of my writing. And I guess I was a little too passionate on talking about personal trainer cooking for 4 minutes straight. But come on, the remix is really great, just trust me on that. What I wanted to talk about for today's outro is more on how I edit each video, or rather how I go back to each video in my editing process. So I do actually work at an office 9-to-5 job on the weekdays, and then I come home and edit my videos. I do my day-to-day task workload for my actual job, but I also listen to my own videos every day to make sure everything is just right. I upload an unlisted version on YouTube, and then I make sure the presentation and volume controls are in effect, and then I make some tweaks here and there to get everything where it needs to be, and then I can ship them out for the whole world to see. Let me tell you, it was a very daunting task to try and get everything right. On screen I have a few pictures that I want to show you all. I take various notes on what needs to be adjusted, especially the volume control. I am very stingy to a fault, and I really wanted to make sure everything is adjusted perfectly, so that people don't want to change their volume on their own personal devices. I just wanted to make sure that people are having the best experience they could possibly have while listening to my videos. My older videos are not that great if I'm being self-critical. I have the volume sporadically getting louder and softer, and it wasn't very good. I think by my 4th video of this series I started to take note of that and made sure that every video now has good volume control. But yeah, it was very mind-numbing to be doing this every single day when editing these videos. Thankfully, almost over, so I don't have to worry about this so often. But I'm very happy about doing this project over the past few years and actually doing something other than gaming or other silly things. I take pride in my work here, and I'm just super happy to show it to you all now. Anyways, that should be it for today. I don't want to make the video much longer than it needs to be. Hope you all take care and see you all next time.